You able to for my will be a carbon ever possible multimedia. And you can way a news update near the Ebabe Som.
John Dramani Mahama called Chatham War UK. Now holding command was say Emre do say a big brim. Omomanya 70 years he konya no me ma omukwa mo media de. Now they normally most of the time they lose their thoughts. Their thoughts they have backward minds. Enti na akoba to say omomanya 70 edi kom 80 no enka Africa ye to aba me enso so omuso kra e mo medi o man no so. Ebi mu fi say wakotu to jagu honoma as wakopento kwa man ho no onya no nwene de obetima ya magana nye age with respect to leadership in Africa. As a political scientist, I say me what can I say?
Yeah, me that's it. So
3.1.
Yeah, but here I the American said near former President Mahama Echo Kamo Chatham House about the age and the leadership, particularly in Africa. No, it's not new to me personally because as far back as 2015, 2016, on Facebook, I put this on the discussion. The position is maintaining the old age. If I say age, important factor in such a leadership, African leadership. And at the time, most of the leaders of Africa, don't know. Look, let's say
3.1.
The situation now and next. You will as Ghana as a country, economic crisis, you come and fees and corruption, look at it, let's look at it critically. Nana Akufo-Addo of the 1990s, right, during the time of Kumi, look at the vibrancy, not Nana Akufo-Addo, and what the division are, if you want to compare, look at the age at that time, and this time now, over here, president, you can completely say, at the time now the age is nice so a branch and I say at least some age we compare and never can over to me at that time and then we are not seeing it because now people are asking say it is not only about that, it has also to do with the age factor because at this particular point so many things were he as a person of the 1990s and can over to me and then you have to rely on so many people to do it never be as a party, as a person, over to me. So yes, age is a very, very critical in the type of your leadership Africa. Leadership differences, age for me is very, very important. So I think that as Ghanaians, we need to look at certain things, considering age. So let me look at our we retire at 60. That was to be about maybe around 70 years. That is why we want to, if I say, leading policies to address. If you look at to address the challenges now, look at Africa's population, the youngest population. So I can say, and yet Uber leadership now, and we are not saying that they don't have any decision. They have, but the point is that if you have competent. Young generation, competent people that are also younger. In my view, can give opinion. I think that we should look at that and then give that opportunity. We should not just like experience it doesn't come with when you 70 years, 30 years. But never be hard. If you look at that person, you tend to question it is expected say looking at age, new age. So mostly I think that younger, the crop of
okay, Dr. Abdul. Okay.
I want to lead a country.
Dr. Abdul Jalilu, Mami Musawi, in your estimation, at what age Ghana, Uja Mampeni John Mama Okasea is 64 years. Omo pre MPP, we have somebody like Alan, who is above 65, 68. Alan, Canada, Japan 62, Baumia 59. Akupre, Akoto, Afi Akoto is within 70s. So, age by now, Africa. You hear now. Should you go with the pedigree of the person and answer just a younger age?
In my view, in my view, I can give opinion. The constitution say 40 years or above.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So for me, between 40 years to somewhere around, it should not be more than 70. For me, any other person, if you are already, maybe you have already been elected, maybe at the age of 64, 65, all right? That's by 50, maybe by 70. And I said the one who are completely, maybe a second time, it's okay. I know all those people are coming after 70 years. We should just tell them to go away. We should just be candid and vote for people that are young.
Because Jay Kufuor,
between 40 and 70 years, Obi Babesha, the Babesha said the first time from 70 years. Why?
Dr. Abdul, Jay Kufuor ended his reign at the age of 70.
Hello?
Dr. Abdul Timenka. But see, Jay Kufuor, the presidency, no, 70 years, which means about the age of 62.
Yes.
And from your estimation, Obi anya 70 kondi this year sa so to you.
Obi Obama say Oba the first term from 70 years. We should tell him to go away. So what you say? Say so be Obi ya electoral at the age of 64, 65. First term. Next year, the money bomb here. They don't need to make me completely by 70, 71, 72 hours. Fine. But back from 70 years now coming to from 70 years going. We should tell them to go away.
Hey, Dr. Abdul Jalil Medawa say a quick one. Jay Kufuor ended at 70, about 62. Nana started at 72. Akoto Owusu Afiye started at 73.
73.
Obaba Bepre. And Usha Omo Omene Prince. Alan is 69.
Yes,
68.
Alan is 68.
You went to Obama Alan, no, 70.
Bamia was 60 years. Your mama 65. Kennedy 63.
63.
That's this year, 2023. So
your mama is 64.
Your mama is 65.
65 this year. Obe starting, you know, I did 67.
Yes, Obe started as necessary. No, 67 years.
Na Kennedy number 2 man, I know is 65.
No, it's 65.
Na Alan is 70.
Na Alan is 70. Na say Baumia no so 62 years.
And all started as
president. So say Akutuso so no
75 yes.
On your
day. Kabrani munyadro. Also
to the sense.
On the age no nchada nya isao.
On say Ghana hakra no. Ye wo age bia wo do also retire.
60
no retire. Because ye hunu say eduru sabre na wadwen ni wunyansa ni wunim ge edu.
Ele say oni omu nyina ya adwen say oni jomama ya adwen.
Me ma asem but be ko gyina wo ka asem no. Okoka be ka Ghana sana me mehwe no.
Okay.
Boss what you say?
Ba oni ni adwen say enkokrafo no moaye.
And yen say constitution no. Because the ye kan ni the ye nyina ye constitution na da ho na. Constitution no because ye pen sa.
They say 40 and above.
And then Kenya 40 below 40.
Below 40. No, say 40 year age I feel say do all the man.
I don't know how what about
it Kenya no 40 to 70.
What?
When you 70 years I want to be my
Ghana.
Yeah, how to say?
And also say the koto
caveat beto on age beto. We deny
age Ghana age your body and your spirit should tell you say at the end make
na come out for 80 years. The body in the spirit catch and say omedi di Ghana no.
Body ni spirit na catch us say the lead no. Ubo hu say Ghana for so already say our body ni spirit no.
E
ka sa asem ne no ombeji anase omunso so hu
o bi o go besa the body ni spirit aka e beska me no body ni spirit aka e sika na o
bia o betu won no bia wa brabom.
Okay, so the question now is why do we retire at 60? Na president the otimi broso
na kuto obi so retire at 70. Obi retire at 60. Obi so retire at 70.
No, I'm talking about Ghana.
Yes.
Yamra no utimi unya 60. You go retirement.
Akuta Supreme Court article 71 for no retire say 70 years. Enti enya 60 sa. E bi retire.
No, me can obo say Supreme Court judges no retire 70.
Akuta sa article 71 for na Jeremiah so mo no retire at 70.
Supreme Court for retire at 70. So say no institutional memory.
Akotade institutional memory. Bia ne say who can say institutional memory. So
that we need to sit down and ask ourselves, say, at what age and a Ghana for your fee say yeah the man penima because with him. Now many people are blaming say Nana Danko Akufo-Addo age has caught up with him.
yes,
And nothing ama and be a touch man. Who show me to say Arab Moemo Kenya. Who show me to say Nyasingbe Yadema. Who show me to say a year. But this man, Cote d'Ivoire,
Ouattara.
Before Ouattara,
Gbagbo.
not Gbagbo. There be no Konan Bedie. The one before Konan Bedie. Konan Bedie Papay. But no problem ni ho.
Barakota eye obi unse Nana Danko Akufo-Addo ke kako 80 years.
Nana Akufo-Addo be wie no anya 80 years.
Say yo 80 years wo bubu dampem. Yo 80 years bia.
Ya was 70 wa bubu. Yes, ya was 60 wa bubu.
Nana Danko Akufo-Addo ekoba.
But ya we say depend ya betima kwaba o. But the thinking
ena mi ka se wo ka efofo buanya de ese no wanyini but oye adwuma no body no bia ne die o.
Me know ya.
It is here the kototo won say wenya 80 na say wenya 70.
So ya to the center.
David.
Buhari.
David. Yeah, she Buhari.
She Diouf. Senegal.
Me am say ayi Cameroon.
Paul Biya.
Hey, Papa, we call your friend say
President Bernard and say do so good no South Sudan eh.
Yes. Paul Biya.
Ojra and do so good oh.
So
do so good oh.
The Papa Muno no say only there as president. Right, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo asema na ye kan konta. Se Nana Danko Akufo-Addo be di president. We be an emranti brim e be about 50 years and I say we cross 60 years e be an kane me be e fi say Nana na ye nimu no a obedi president no enya no ene akotayen kan kore papa ni nia ho de te se ne kan no we obedi president kwa 2016 no and 2017 no when na ho ke time o ka say amine hari no
you could see a difference between 2017 and 2020 and after
Adie chia adie sano na ns sa wo se tie ase sa boss tama na wo primary 4 wa ho odene wo duru jesus no na difference wu hwe Africa ha say Paul Biya or 87 years Paul Biya or 87 years hwe Manuel Pinto da Costa Sao Tome and Principe when age you e dia no mayo 83 years e dia no mayo promo no Cameroon omunia di papa bia wo promo no
so attract over 50 something years
Conde of Guinea or 82 years Alpha Conde
send ye nyeri go mama nya adwene say that age is not helping us
Africa because 78 years
on the Akufo-Addo mate
78 years me found kwachi South Africa South Africa Ramaphosa no na MTN ne dia because nkokra bem na oye MTN oye MTN no
at a very young age
but no ba kokra be di president when oye South Africa when oye South Africa ho but Cyril Ramaphosa kro no
and the baby ni won
dia obiode MTN
the obeka ayi Beningi no in the Beningi Jacob Zuma in the beginning was in the beginning
no the be was South Africa
they already
slip of tongue
so we all agree say age you know
yes
and effect my
moment to blame and I bet my akota me and real to say akota Africa see so all bad there ye the becho but so ye be ma akota umobra unko suku na umebo bra kra mewo na akota ke kako 45 years say abrabo ya wo say we Africa we ye be ma ye wo to Africa see ya akota wajira ona so say
afa utimi ware no
mani mo tene
na o di be 35
o di be akuta 40 35 na o try ye no anya obi don fo bia ma na so mu ebia at age be 30 apeda wo gina baby apeda baby yes okay Africa no
okay what am I there
no ma bu su di anke yo
listen let's hear from the people we are here I like the debate hello who say pick the course for me my tie Ghana for almost what dream won come aye dey so
why akonta
we dey jabo my tie Ghana
answer them with regards to democracy. I think that democracy, freedom are universal human values. And even though we might, for our Africanness, try to be protective of ours, I mean, still, when you have a leader who's old and senile, he has no business continuing to be leader. It doesn't matter whether it's Africa or wherever. You know, when you have leaders who, I mean, have problems in terms of thought, you know, they have no business continuing to be in leadership. And especially when you have a population, a continent as youthful as Africa. 60% of the population of Africa is young. And so, I mean, why would you have 80-year-old and 90-year-olds, you know, still, I was going to say they should be home looking after their grandfather, their grandchildren, but I recently became a grandfather myself, so. And so values of democracy are universal, and we need to continue to deepen democracy in the modern world. And so I would say that yes, we're proud of our African heritage, but the values of protecting human rights and freedoms is something that every human being aspires to, and we cannot rule that out. With geopolitics, well, Europe and NATO, I would say, have been occupied with the Ukraine-Russia war, and several times again we're called on to choose which side, you know, we're on. When Tigray and Ethiopia are fighting, we don't ask you who do you support, or when two African countries are fighting, we don't ask anybody in the world who you support. We try to intervene and resolve it. And so I think that the priority should be how to resolve the conflict. Of course, I don't believe that it is right for one country to make an incursion into another, because if we condone that, then you don't know where it's going to end. And so after Ukraine, who else? And after who else, you know? And so we must maintain that geopolitics. And I do think that the international bodies like the UN, you know, should be the arena where we dialogue and seek solutions to this issue. I studied in Moscow for one of my postgraduates in social psychology, and so I'm familiar with Ukrainians and Russians, and if I see two of them, I can't tell the difference between them unless they open their mouths and I listen to the dialect, you know. And so they are one and the same people, and unfortunately this war is taking a toll on lives. Women, children are suffering. We watch on TV every day, and I think that the time has come for some dialogue. I don't think that this war is winnable by any of the two sides. NATO and the West will continue to pour in arms to help Ukraine to hold its own, which probably is a good thing to defend themselves. But this war is not winnable. It will eventually be solved by dialogue. Why make it eat up more human lives before we sit and talk? I think the issue about, and I'm sure you were talking about Wagner in Mali and other places, Central African Republic. I think it's all a discussion about the role of private military armies, and I do think that creates threats to security. We have national armies. When you start introducing private military, then it goes into the whole sphere of mercenaries. And remember, in the 70s and things, Africa had a very bad experience with mercenaries, where they invaded, you know, some countries to try and overthrow the government and things like that. I think that if there's a multiplication of these private armies, it could go into areas that we do not intend it to go. What the countries that are facing terrorism need is the support and equipment to be able to defend themselves against terrorism, the training and all that. And I think that that is the way to go. Ghana has a very good collaboration with UK, France, and the United States in terms of training against insurgency and terrorism. And I do think that African countries that face that threat, it should not only be the training and skills upscaling, it should also be supply of appropriate equipment to be able to defend themselves against these bandits. As chairman of the Commonwealth of Burkina Faso, I played a frontal role when Burkina Faso descended into crisis. That was when President Blaise Compaoré tried to extend his term of office, and there was civil unrest. The military took over eventually, and as chairman of ECOWAS, I had to lead a delegation there to help them establish a transitional government. And that's when President Kafando came as a transitional president, and then eventually elections were held, and it was handed over to President Roch Kabore. Of course, he got overthrown again, and it's similar to the case in Mali. There was insurgency and terrorism, and the armed forces believed that the civilian government was not prosecuting, the defense of the country enough against terrorists, and so the armed forces themselves took over. But there's no evidence anywhere in the world that the armed forces in control of a country, is better able to fight, terrorism or insurgency than a civilian administration. And it's improved. The security situation has worsened in both Mali and in Burkina Faso since the overthrow of the democratically elected governments. We need to continue to be engaged. I noticed that the EU, of course, with the Malian authorities asking the French to leave and all that, I noticed that there's a certain disengagement, and the attitude is like, okay, you're on your own and all that. I don't think we should give up on those countries, because terrorism anywhere is a threat to all humankind. And so even though those authorities are going in a certain direction, I think that the world should still remain engaged with both Mali and Burkina Faso and give whatever support we can to be able to help them deal with the situations they face. And I think the last one was about Commonwealth. I'm hearing for the first time that our Foreign Minister is interested in the position of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. I've worked closely with Baroness Scotland. She's chosen me to lead several election observation missions in Kenya, in Sierra Leone, and other places. And I know her well. She's been quite capable Secretary General. Incidentally, she comes from the Caribbean, Dominica. And so if it's Africa's turn, why not? I mean, if we have a Ghanaian Secretary General, female, it's something I would support. Thank you.
Okay, so the gentleman here, yes sir, and we'll move this way and hope to have more time.
Hi, my name is Mark Boland. I'm a research analyst at Red Intelligence. I've followed the debt situation closely over the past 2.5 years. So there was a figure from an MPP official that they would seek a 30% haircut on Ghana's Eurobond holders and other external creditors. So if you were in office, would you seek a higher or lower haircut, or the same amount, given the countervailing measures of, reducing the financial strain on domestic savers, but also to revive the Ghana's reputation as a global investment destination? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We have a question that is also about finance that wants to ask it live, but isn't with us. So if we can unmute him and allow Carlos